Morning, all. All right, so we have 8 games tonight in the National Hockey League. 8. We've got, let's see, 2 starting at 4 o'clock for me in Pacific, 1 a half an hour after that, and an hour later, 3 an hour later. Pretty well spread out, right? So, at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, here we go. Another one of these great battles between top teams in the Central as the Carolina Hurricanes go in against the Tampa Bay Lightning. This has been a season series that's had its share of back and forth. Both teams have won 3 times. Carolina's 29-10-4, Tampa Bay 29-13-2, and Tampa Bay has been looking a lot more, well, mortal over the last few weeks than they did earlier in the season. So for Carolina, Vinny Trocheck, 17 goals, 20 assists. He's been a great player for them in any of the games he's been in. And Marty Necas, 11 goals, 22 assists, 33 points. Really, really good young forward for the Carolina Hurricanes, a team that seems to be awash in young forwards who are able to put the puck in the back of the net. And then on the Tampa Bay side, Killorn, 11 goals, 14 assists, 25 points. The scoring depth for Tampa is always excellent. Palat, also an example of that, 12 goals, 24 assists, 36 points. Even without Stamkos, even without Kucherov, this team is dangerous. So for Tampa, they're 2 points behind Carolina, 1 point behind Florida. Carolina's 1 point ahead of Florida, 2 points ahead of Tampa. 13 points clear of Nashville for Carolina, 11 points clear of Nashville for Tampa. So it really is a battle for those 3 teams to decide who's going to emerge as the first place team. And for Tampa, winning these games against Carolina is all the more key for that reason. So this could very well be game of the night material. Also at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific, Florida. They've drawn Columbus tonight. Columbus, of course, fallen on some hard times. And even prior to that, Florida's won 5 out of 6 against Columbus on the season. So this is a matchup that's definitely favored Florida. Columbus is now 15-22-9. Florida's 28-12-5. And yeah, it's not a matter of whether or not Florida makes the playoffs. It's do they end up finishing first. So what they don't want is a 3-point game here and then to lose here. That's one thing that Florida would look at and say that's a worst case scenario. So Texier, 4 goals, 11 assists. Recent games for Columbus, it seems like he's picking up the offense again. But after a pretty good start, it's really fallen off for him. Max Domi, 7 goals, 12 assists. Always watch what's going on with Domi. As Columbus sits 10 points behind Nashville for that final playoff spot in the Central. Florida, Hornquist, 14 goals, 16 assists. Florida fans have seen with Hornquist that he can be a really good goal scorer and that he does tend to get injured at least once during the season, if not more than that. But here's to hoping that once back in the lineup, he stays there. Vetrano, 15 goals, 6 assists. Frankie has fit in so well in Florida, and he's really thrived there. It's been a great story so far. So yeah, they are 1 point behind Carolina, 1 point ahead of Tampa, 12 points ahead of Nashville. Again, Florida, Tampa, Carolina could go right down to the last weekend of the year, and I'm absolutely fine with that. That would be great. Then at 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific, the Dallas Stars at home against the Detroit Red Wings. For Detroit, they're now 16-24-6. Dallas is 17-14-12. Dallas has won 3 out of 4 against Detroit, so they've got 4 left. And the key is not to overlook Detroit right now. Detroit's playing well. They're playing hard. Vrana, 12 goals, 14 assists for him, 26 points. He's fitting in well in Detroit so far. Adam Ernie, best season of his career? Yeah, probably. 11 goals, 7 assists for him, 18 points. They are 11 points behind Nashville. So they're only 1 point behind Columbus. It's strange, isn't it? Dallas, I only say that because there was no expectation that Columbus would fall behind Detroit this year, and yet we could be there as soon as tonight. On the Dallas side, Jamie Benn, 9 goals, 16 assists. He's been part of the resurgence for Dallas over the recent games. And Robertson has kind of been this great story, 12 goals, 20 assists, 32 points. He's in the hunt for Rookie of the Year. I still think it's Kaprizov's. I'd be surprised if it's not his. And Shesterkin now is making a run at it himself with the Rangers. But Robertson's been quite the story. So for Dallas, who are also quite the story right now, they're 3 points behind Nashville. They have 3 games in hand. So it's possible that the Dallas could come out and get that 4th spot. I not, holding my breath on it, but it's possible. Sure, why not? 17, 14, and 12. Let's see how their record looks after tonight. 17, 14, and 13 wouldn't necessarily be a surprise. So at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, Nashville is then at home against Chicago. So for Nashville, who looked like they were ready to put this whole thing to bed and have that fourth place to themselves, they were unable to win either of their games against Carolina, which makes things a little murkier for them. 24, 21, and 1. They're at home against Chicago, the team that's primarily chasing them, at 21, 19, and 5. And I say primarily because, again, Dallas is right there. Dallas just doesn't have the win tiebreaker on other teams. So Nashville's won all 5 meetings so far this year with Chicago. Chicago really needs to win this one. Kubalik, 14 goals, 15 assists, 29 points. Very, very good season for him. Again, he had the slow start. Hinostroza, it's been great. I think we had, 3 assists in the last game? So on the season, he has 15 games played and 5 points. But all those 5 points are since he returned to Chicago, and it just feels like it just fits. So they're 2 points behind Nashville. They have 1 game in hand. So if they win this one tonight, they control their destiny. Nashville, Arvidsson has really picked it up lately. 10 goals, 14 assists for him. Granlund, 11 goals, 7 assists. Mild surprise that he'd still be in Nashville after the deadline, but they're in the hunt, so David Poile wasn't in the mood to make moves, I guess, which would be perceived as selling. So they're pretty entrenched in 4th place. If they can hold off Chicago and Dallas, I don't see how they catch anybody else. 13 back of Carolina, 12 back of Florida, and 11 back of Tampa. So, yeah. 4th place is right where Nashville ends up slotting in. They just have to hold off Chicago and Dallas. 9 o'clock Eastern, so 6 o'clock Pacific, we have the Calgary Flames at home against the Ottawa Senators, battle of the Tkachuk brothers. Ottawa's won 5 out of 7 in this meeting so far this year. It's some bizarre stuff. At the end of the year, we'll look at teams who had some kind of ownership over one another that was weird and how they all seem to contradict each other. Because, yeah, when you look at these matchups, it's strange how Ottawa will own one team, get destroyed by another, and yet the team that they're getting destroyed by has a good record against the team. And yeah, so again, I'll look at that at the end of the year. 15, 20, 26, and 4. 15, 26, and 4 is the record for Ottawa. 19, 22, and 3 for Calgary. Calgary needs to get on a major run here. Tkachuk, 14 goals, 14 assists. That's Brady Tkachuk for Ottawa. Batherson, 15 goals, 13 assists, 28 points. Feels like Batherson's heating up again. They're 13 points back of Montreal. So they're not going to make it, but the effort's there. On the other side of the ice, Matthew Tkachuk, 10 goals, 20 assists, 30 points. It is interesting that Brady has more goals than Matt this year. Their seasons have been similar. Monahan, 9 goals, 16 assists, 25 points. And yeah, we'll see with Calgary if they do fail to make up that space and end up getting into a playoff spot. What changes in the offseason? They are currently 6 points back of the Montreal Canadiens, who are starting their game at 9 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock Pacific against the Edmonton Oilers. I'm wearing Oilers because sure, why not? The Oilers are 26, 15, and 2. Montreal's 19, 14, and 9. Montreal's won 4 out of 5 against Edmonton. So they seem to like Vancouver and Edmonton. No problems. Calgary, a little bit more of a problem, maybe. But yeah, so for them, Nick Suzuki, 8 goals, 19 assists. He's had some points recently, really fallen off after a hot start. Tatar, 10 goals, 17 assists, 27 points. He's been playing pretty darn well lately. And on the Edmonton side, Darnell Nurse, 13 goals, 15 assists, 28 points. Don't be surprised if he scores one as well tonight. McDavid, 23 goals, 48 assists, 71 points. It's a ridiculous amount of points being put up by McDavid. And, I mean, there's still that outside shot that he might get to 100. Very least, he should get to 90. And that's kind of ridiculous in a 56-game schedule, isn't it? So for Montreal, they're kind of entrenched where they're at, too. So they're 14 points behind Toronto, 10 points behind Winnipeg, 7 points behind Edmonton. So if they can hold off Calgary, and if Vancouver doesn't go on a charge, they should be basically just locked into 4th. And for Edmonton, they're 7 points behind Toronto, 3 points behind Winnipeg, 7 points ahead of Montreal. So they'll be looking to increase that lead over Montreal and get closer to Winnipeg and Toronto tonight. 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific as well is the start time of Minnesota and against Arizona. For Minnesota, this has been a good matchup. They've won 5 out of 6. Minnesota's 27, 13, and 3. The Coyotes are 20, 20, and 5. And the Coyotes, right now, 4th place. They'll want to hold on to that, hold off St. Louis, so they need this win against Minnesota. On the Minnesota side, Kevin Fiala, 14 goals, 12 assists, 26 points. And a lot of whether they win or they don't may come down to the work ethic from Fiala tonight. Rask, 7 goals, 9 assists. Impressive run for Rask this year. Again, the bar was kind of low, but it's been impressive. Clayton Keller, 13 goals, 18 assists, 31 points. I like Keller. Be interesting to see in the offseason what the Coyotes do, and I think it's going to depend on whether or not they hold that fourth spot. Nick Schmaltz, 10 goals, 18 assists, 28 points. Quietly, I think he's had a solid year. For these teams, Minnesota is 7 points behind Colorado and Vegas, who are tied for first, and they're 12 points ahead of Arizona. On the Arizona front, they're kind of locked into fourth if they make it too. They're 19 points back of both Colorado and Vegas, and 12 points behind Minnesota. So even if you win this one tonight, you're still 10 points back. If they win both, they're 8 points back. So the idea that Arizona might think about third might be there, but it's not going to happen. So 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. The last game of the night is Vegas at home against San Jose. Vegas has won every meeting they've had of the 5 this year. And it is a big part of, San Jose's difficulty this year, because San Jose's 18, 22, and 4. So 5 straight losses against Vegas doesn't help that record. For Vegas, 31, 11, and 2. They have really put together this gaudy record because they have a really good record against the teams that are towards the bottom of the standings. And yeah, sometimes that's what matters. LeBanc, 10 goals, 15 assists, 25 points. And I say that because there are teams that will play down to the teams that are at the bottom. And so when you have a team like Vegas that goes out there, and like the last 2 against Anaheim are a good example, played very well all the way through in both games. That can be almost as impressive as getting up for those games against Colorado and Minnesota, because those ones should be easy to get up for. Sometimes that's where that trap magnet that I haven't used this year because it doesn't work. I use that a lot during most regular seasons, which is the Admiral Akbar. It's a trap. Because if you're Vegas and if you're going through Detroit, you're going through Columbus, maybe you have a bit of a down night. But when they're all divisional games, it really shouldn't happen. So on the San Jose side, you got LeBanc, who's demoted to 4th line last game. Let's see how he bounces back. 10 goals, 15 assists, 25 points. Erik Karlsson, who's been better lately, 5 goals, 12 assists for him. And yeah, they're 5 points back of Arizona. I don't see San Jose going on a run from here, but they were hot before this recent cold streak. It's hard to predict. But Vegas, Stone, 15 goals, 35 assists, 50 points for him. It is predictable that he'll have an excellent two-way game. He's going to steal the puck a bunch, and he makes it look relatively easy out there. And he always seems to be enjoying himself. He's a very intense individual. Alex Tuch, 16 goals, 12 assists. He's heated up, and I would not be surprised to see him get one against San Jose as well. For Vegas, they are tied with Colorado for first. Not Carolina, Colorado. And they're 7 points ahead of Minnesota, 19 points ahead of Arizona. So, pretty comfy. It's going to be this battle between Colorado and Vegas for first place. And I'll be here to watch it. Let me know your winners in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.